mortgage fraud, identity theft, fraudulent identification. They don't qualify Revenue Canada information on individuals to help them obtain this home. Hello folks, welcome to the Mortgage Den. I'm Nectar Silva, principal broker here at Northwood Mortgage Limited. And today is April the 8th, 2025. Today, we're going to talk mortgage fraud in the mortgage industry.
We have seen an increase in these types of cases in the Greater Toronto area.
Real estate agents telling home buyers to fake what they make.
These alleged victims were willing participants and misrepresented documents, took out 2 mortgages on her home, and took the money.
It's a terrible topic. So let's talk first and foremost about the frauds. Essentially, there's 2 types of frauds that we see in our industry. The fraud for profit and the fraud for shelter. So let's start talking about the one, fraud for profit. This is where, the bad apples, the bad guys, using identity theft, using a straw buyer, which I'll explain very shortly, to dupe a financial institution and possibly a homeowner out of their hard-earned money. Obviously, the money is taken for their purposes. The results are homeowners who are stuck with a mortgage that they never took out, who are fighting to prove that they didn't take the mortgage out. We have lending institutions who have been defrauded of funds, who now have to have stringent criteria for us, who have, unfortunately, will pass some of this cost on to other consumers, as this cost is part of, their expenses. And so we as consumers now find it much more difficult to get mortgages. We find the lenders are tighter with their documentation requirements. You hear the old standing joke, everything under the sun, including a pint of blood. It makes it much more difficult. The insurance coverage, much more difficult. This is something that affects everyone in the industry. There is no such thing as a victimless crime, right? We have people who are actually feel this and unfortunately lose money on it. Then there is the fraud for shelter. And ultimately, it's someone who wants to buy a home, who feels it's their right to buy a home. They don't qualify, and they, again, go to bad players to help them obtain this home. And this could be anything from doctoring their employment information, doctoring their tax returns, their notice of assessments, their pay stubs, doctoring their job letters, and having an office back up to support these doctored documents when the banks or the trust companies or the lenders call to verify this information. The client gets into their home using fraudulent information. They doctor their bank accounts. Their bank accounts, this is where the proof of the down payment is coming from. This is where proof of their employment income goes into. These things get doctored so that the banks are fooled by the documentation that's provided. They provide the mortgage, and the clients get into the house knowing that they've used fraud to obtain the purchase of that home. What are the drawbacks? What are the setbacks? Again, there is a victim in this. The lending institution lent the money out. There might be a default insurer who was duped as well. And then you have the person who did have the fraud committed on their part to obtain the home. Lending institutions right now are much smarter. They're using AI. They're using technology to identify identity theft, fraudulent identification. They're using access to Revenue Canada information on individuals to determine if the mortgage documentation to support income is valid or not. So you may have gotten away with it. But when the institutions go back and start looking at their records, start looking at the older mortgages, now that they have the information to be able to identify these fraudulent documents, that person is now going to have a mortgage when it matures not being refinanced or renewed by that lending institution. The lending institution is just not going to renew the mortgage. And as an individual, now you have to start looking for another place to place your mortgage. The other lenders are going to ask the same questions. You're coming through a broker, you have a mortgage that's paid for beautifully, and the lender won't renew your mortgage. That sets off bells and whistles. It lets the other lender know something was wrong with that mortgage in the first place. Most of the other lenders as well have a place that they report this information to. All of the lenders have access to it. And once your information is sent to that institution or sent to that location, all the lenders have access to that information at this point in time, which basically means if you get caught, the other lenders will know that this is the situation and they won't lend money to you. What are your options? Well, your option is to sort of look for other lenders who may not have the type of criteria or the information that these lenders have just to discover your fraudulent information. But now you're talking about private lenders. You're talking about lenders who charge 2 to 3 times as much as a regular institutional lender charges. And your options of ever going back to institutional lender are slim to none. You're going to end up paying 3 times as much as you normally would just for the fact that you wanted to get into a home before you were able to qualify. And the bad players who helped you, unfortunately, they're long gone. They've made their money, they've moved on, and you are stuck with the higher costs and possibly the need to sell your home and rent someplace, because again, these other lenders are not going to be able to help you in the future. Fraud is not a victimless crime. There are victims to all of this, including the person, as I just said, who committed the fraud. But again, usually they're doing it with other bad players who help them or help you to get to this type of situation. And at the end of the day, you will spend a lot of money with private lenders if you have to go down that route, or if you have to sell, you may be selling in a bad market, which will mean that you would have bought high and sold low and lost some of your down payment. This is not something that anyone should be entertaining, anyone should be encouraging. On top of that, I mean, the police don't seem to push this hard enough, but if they started to, obviously penalties for committing fraud. I have not seen anyone go to jail for it, but definitely fines, and your reputation is absolutely ruined at this point in time. Again, please be aware, fraud does not serve any purpose in our industry and should be avoided at all costs. Thank you, folks, for watching this episode. Please subscribe to Northwood Mortgage for more episodes of our podcast. And if you like topics like this, which hit close to home with respect to our industry, please write to us and let us know. Thank you very much, and I'm Nick De Silva.